Well, thank you very much, Minister, and also thank you for the complimentary words you had in the beginning about the Arctic Circle. I hope you get inspired by this democratic dynamic, somewhat unruly assembly that you have here.
I'm sure I will.
But one of the things we established, let's take a seat,
Yes.
was that, please, we invite the hall to put questions. And I have no idea who is going to ask your question or what they're going to ask about. We have people here with microphones in different parts of the hall. Please take a seat.
Thank you.
But while they are thinking whether to use this unique opportunity to ask you, I must say that at these challenging times, to have somebody like you with your extraordinary experience as the head of the Danish government and in the international arena for a long time. I think I once saw you in the corridors in Abu Dhabi at the World Future Energy Summit some years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
So let me ask you, with all that experience, when you look at the Arctic, which clearly has now moved center stage in the global concerns, whether it's geoeconomics or geopolitics or science or climate, whatever, what would be your primary guideline in the next few years as Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of Denmark, when you see here how global this region, which we used to think about as ours in an isolated way, has actually become?
Well, that's not an easy question. And compared to you, I'm a youngster and a non-experienced guy. So perhaps you should answer that question yourself. No. Well, I would say the most important thing is, of course, to really work hard to secure this area as a low-tension area, which is, of course, not easy, given what I said, what the Prime Minister of Iceland just said about Russia's aggression in Ukraine, but nevertheless, it is important. And the tool to achieve that is the Arctic Council. And therefore, it is so important that we keep that organization going, even though it's not business as usual. That push for very high diplomatic standards, but it's most needed. Because if we give up on that, we will open a room for different kind of alternatives, which will not be in the very best interest of the people living up here. So I think that it is the most important thing. And then, of course, there's also always two sides on a coin. And even though we are now living with a very, very negative backdrop for a lot of geopolitical reasons, not only the war in Ukraine, but also most recently Hamas terror attack in Israel and a new tension in the Middle East. I experienced that very, very clearly yesterday when I attended the Nordic African Foreign Ministers meeting in Algiers. It is something, if we do not handle it right, could create, really problems between us, the Europeans, the Western world, and the global South, which we must avoid in order to solve other important issues as the climate challenges, the SDGs, etc. So there are many, many challenges around and a very negative backdrop, but it also comes with opportunities, of course. What I find promising, but of course it's up to people in Nuuk to take next steps, is, for instance, EU's, the European Union's awareness about what's going on in the High North. There's a potential for closer cooperation between Greenland, as an example, and the rest of Europe, responding to the Inflation Reduction Act, responding to China, achieving for more self-independence, the whole thing about raw earth, etc., etc. So it also comes with opportunities if the countries in the Arctic are ready to reach out for them.
Great. Let me have a little bit more light in the hall so I see if people put up their hand. We have some, yes, here in the middle, please. I have to, yes. Can you bring the microphone? If you can introduce yourself and then ask the question. Yeah.
I will. My name is Mark Jacobsen. I'm assistant professor at the Royal Danish Defence College. I'm very interested in the Arctic Council and especially what the Kingdom of Denmark will do to prioritize it when we take over the chairmanship or the chairship in 2025. Because at the same time we will also be chair of the Nordic Minister of Council and the EU, and hopefully also have a chair or a seat in the UN Security Council. So what will Denmark do to prioritize the Arctic Council, and what are you doing already now to find out together with your Faroese and Greenlandic colleagues about what to prioritize? Thank you.
Yeah, it will definitely be a busy year. So we have to prioritize, and in order to do so, we will discuss with our Nordic friends that we will not take up the presidency of the Nordic Council in 2025. And whether we'll be member of the UN Security Council, we do not know that for sure yet. Right now, it's a clean sheet, Denmark and Greece, but it is an election. I'm a politician. You should never take anything for granted. But I hope we will be a non-permanent member, which is actually not too bad. I mean, because it will give us a pretty strong position in that particular year, 2025. The second half of it, chairing the European Union, be a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, and at the same time upholding the chairship of the Arctic Circle. It is not a responsibility we can deal with alone from the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Denmark. It will be in close cooperation, of course, with Greenland and Faroe Island. It will be in even more close cooperation than in history. We are very, very aware that our access to be an Arctic state is the fact that Greenland, and some will argue to some extent Faroe Island, but mainly Greenland, is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. So it will be a shared responsibility, and we have constructive discussions right now how we should create the architecture behind that. But we will give it high priority. I'm pleased to say that not my government, that was, in earlier days, the government I'm a member of just presented a budget proposal for our parliament, which is discussed right now, where we increased the MFA budget by 12% over the next coming 4 years, which is also a clear signal of us stepping up. So we know that it will be a tough year, but we will give it high prioritize. And we are already in close cooperation with Norwegian, whom I want to commend for the way they have dealt with the very difficult diplomatic situation, taking up the responsibility after Russia, how we can continue their work. So we will give it high priority.
Yes, we will have, there are questions over there. If you can bring the microphone quickly, yes. And let me emphasize, part of this democratic exercise is not just the minister willing to answer questions, but also for the rest of you to be eagerly putting questions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Jim Gamble. I'm Arctic Program Director for Pacific Environment, based in Anchorage, Alaska. One of the ways that cooperation can continue, even during a time of political uncertainty, is, of course, through the indigenous peoples of the Arctic. And so my question is, what can the Danish government do to increase that cooperation and strengthen the role of Arctic indigenous peoples?
Before you answer, let me take one question from this part. Yes. Also, yeah.
Thank you. My name is Rocky Weitz. I'm a professor at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts. I direct maritime studies and Arctic studies. My question is about the energy transition. I think we have a real opportunity with COP28 to get fossil fuel producers to see the opportunity of becoming renewable energy producers. And I think Denmark, Iceland, and Norway could maybe help us. What do you think?
Short response to the first question. I mean, first and foremost, I think we can support any kind of framework bringing the indigenous people together. I just spent this morning with Sarah, who is chairing this framework, and I find it very promising that even though we have this very special situation with one of the Arctic member states not being an integrated part of the cooperation right now, we still have indigenous people living in Russia, and they actually managed to uphold some kind of contact. So I think I'm not the right one to conduct that work. I think it's about being supportive, and that's also about, you know, supporting budget-wise. And a short response to the other question, well, I think we can be instrumental as the Nordics, because we have a kind of proven concept that we have managed to de-link CO2 emission from economic growth, and that is a good example to bring to the rest of the world. I haven't seen him yet, but I saw in the participation list that Sultan Al Jaber, who's going to chair the COP28, is attending this meeting as well, which is, I mean, a strong signal of this part of the world playing a major role in the preparation of the upcoming 28.